This episode of Let's Talk Natural Medicine is brought to you by BioGland MedLab. Is backache, mild joint stiffness, muscle soreness, and inflammation impacting how you move and feel each day? BioGland MedLab Clinical Pain Relief is a triple action formula combining clinically researched term extra turmeric to relieve muscle pain and soreness after exercise, Boswellia apris flex to relieve mild joint pain, inflammation and stiffness, and Eucommia bark traditionally used in Chinese medicine to relieve muscle ache and pain, with benefits reported from as little as 5 days. Try BioGland MedLab Clinical Pain Relief and feel the difference. Learn more at bioglandmedlab.com.au. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. Hello and welcome everybody to Let's Talk Natural Medicine, the Legend series. And I'm joined today by Mariangela Parodi. She's a naturopath and an award-winning alchemist with over 30 years experience in natural and energy-based healing. Mariangela's work bridges biomedical science, naturopathy, intuitive healing, and she's best known for supporting sensitive individuals and practitioners to really reconnect with their health and their intuition and inner strength. So this conversation is going to be crossing science, sensitivity, remembering what it means to truly heal naturally and be in tune with yourself. So welcome, Mariangela.
Thanks, Annie. I'm so excited to be here and part of this Legend series.
So great to have you here. So I would love to start with when people hear the word energy medicine or alchemy, they can be curious or skeptical or just like, what do these words even mean? So how would you describe them in human terms?
Well, energy, we all are energy beings. We're all people that have soul, have light within us, and trees, plants also have that sense of light. As we connect more to that, we can be part of a community, feel more connected rather than feeling alone. So I think that's where I feel that energy comes in the most, is we come in with light or love and we sort of carry that through us throughout our life. But over time, over challenges, that can get disconnected or shut down because of the struggles we face. And I think my work is about reconnecting back into that light and that energy and that sense of peace that we all carry. It's finding the journey back to that state again.
And does that require tapping back into those past traumas and that psychotherapy side of things, or is it more just actually just touching the body, being with the body? Like, what does that mean for the consumer?
Okay, so it doesn't have to go into trauma. Most people, we need to pace it. We can't dive into that straight away. For me, it's more about connection to the land. I do have a strong shamanic lineage. Mm-hmm. And so I think when most of us, especially our daily life is so stressful that our anchor is missing, our connection to the land, the earth, and that I think is so important. When we're breathing helps to relax the nervous system. When we're just even lying on the earth, we connect to the natural rhythm, the biorhythm of the earth, and that helps to settle our nervous system. So I think that is the basis, that I connect people back into their bodies, back to the breath. So when we're doing that, then that feels safe, and then we can explore beyond that, whether we touch into something a bit deeper, some of those traumas from the past, but it's not where I go to straight away. I need to help the person feel safe first.
Yeah, very, very good. And do most people come to you because they know that they are not in touch with themselves anymore? They're finding life just too frantic, or they're aware that they're not as in touch with themselves on who they truly are? Or are most people sort of just surprised that comes out through the journey with you?
Most people, I think, say that they're lost, or they're tired, or they just don't know what's next. They just feel very confused. That's when people are basically on the beginning of their path. And so when I start to connect them back to their body, back to the breath, back to the earth, they realize how they've lost their center or gave away too much. But then as I have other clients that have come in a little bit further on their path, they've already worked on themselves, they have a bit more understanding about their intuition, and they're ready for their next breakthrough or up leveling. And so that gets really interesting, sort of tapping into everybody comes in with gifts, everybody has healing abilities, and it's about really nurturing and nourishing that so that they're using that their best abilities to come through. And I think when we have trauma, I'll call them initiation points that we struggle with, that is like a rebirth part, that it's a liberation of more of their abilities. So they'll come with the struggle, and often it's something that they're meant to harness. Like for me, my deepest wounds is about speaking. And so being able to speak in a podcast or share has been like a lifelong journey for me, having grown up with a father that was very challenging, an Italian dictator. And so I think for me, my wound, my core trauma was I can't speak up. It's not safe to express. I have to have his opinions. Otherwise, there's a lot of trauma from that. So having, this practice of being a naturopath and helping other people has helped me to actually step into more of my abilities, because I wasn't necessarily doing it for me. I was doing it for the people that I wanted to help. So for me to share my message in a greater way, I had to try and record audios or do videos. And my first ones were pretty bad, pretty ugly, very scared. But over time, I was able to sort of go through that challenge and realize, wow, actually, I have a gift for sharing. I have a gift for empowering others through my voice. But it was having to face that wound. And I think because it comes in quite generational, I did grow up, I was born in Chile, but my father was Italian. So his family left Italy just before World War II. And so there's a strong influence around the environment at that time. It's not safe. They got everything taken away from them. Even my grandparents' wedding bands were given up, for the regime, and they were given tin bands as replacements. So when they traveled to Chile to set up a safe life there, and it was great for a while, but then the next dictator turns up, and, for a safer life, we moved to Australia. But there's two generations of power, influence, and I think that's where the ancestral imprinting can come in. And that's a lot of the work that I do, is helping people that have come in, and we go back, maybe 8 to 15 generations, because we're all holding some sort of vibrational or emotional charge. And as especially from the female line, our mitochondria is inherited from the maternal line. So we carry a lot of, from the beginning, from thousands of years. And so my work goes quite deep into helping women especially tap into what are we carrying? Why do we feel scared? Why is there anxiety there, especially about public speaking and getting your voice heard? So that gets exciting when I'm able to reclaim that for my clients, and they feel much more confident in themselves. They can even, be listened to or respected more in their house, with their family, and later on into their community and the work that they tend to do.
Oh, I love that, when your wounds become your superpowers, right? But it's so easy said than done. It's such a journey. And so, first of all, congratulations being here today, showing that it is possible, because it isn't natural, and it's often one of the biggest fears. But when you start doing this path, you're actually then, you can see it as if you weren't speaking here today, you'd be robbing people of the opportunity to hear your story and to learn from that. And so it is so worth always pushing through. But we appreciate, to the listeners, it does take quite a while. So you grew up in this Chilean Italian immigrant family where herbal medicine and food as medicine were part of your daily life. So what did healing look like in your family home growing up that probably didn't look like to the average Australian listening today?
I think in the 70s, we had that wog culture. Well, now it's trendy, but back then, salami, all sauces, lots of basil. My dad was very much an advocate of growing your own food and the nourishment of food, and it's something that you don't shortchange on. And even, nourishing the soil and, putting in that manure, that the nutrients are so important from there. And yeah, just using herbs, different remedies for ailments at home, chamomile tea and the different digestive foods, and lots of garlic. But I think at that time, being Italian, there was lots of dairy and lots of wheat, and I didn't realize I was sensitive to that. I'd have some really bad cystic acne. And I remember, as a teenager, maybe around 14 to 16, putting garlic on my pimples. Didn't realize that it was a digestive issue, but looking up, how can I heal this? And I would look up, artichoke and some Mary's thistle, and I'd take these horrible drinks, and I was trying my best back then, but didn't realize that, gosh, if I just took away dairy, it would have made my life so much easier. But I think that cohesive sitting down, eating food together was really important as a family. And I think that also brings connection. And it's not just about the food, it's how you're sitting at the table and how you're spending time together was part of that upbringing. But definitely I didn't have jam sandwiches. I didn't have just, plain Vegemite and cheese in my lunchbox. I was definitely, I grew up in Sydney, but I think luckily there were some other migrant kids there, so I could, hang out with the other Greeks and Italians.
Yeah, exactly. Back when it wasn't trendy, I grew up in a French-Russian heritage family, so I'm a bit the same. Like sometimes, you'd have a barbecue and there'd be like a red herrings or, a fish with the full eyeball, and friends would be like, like something they've never seen before. And you don't realize you're different. But yes, it was a shock in the 70s because it certainly wasn't trendy to do so. But it certainly has shaped how you practice today. So you've obviously taken those qualities of, that relationship with food and natural living, coming from the earth, and your, father's influence, your grandmother's influences into how you practice today. So even before formal study, did you sense that healing would be part of that journey for you?
As I mentioned, my father was a challenging man, and I did have a lot of anxiety. So I think for me, it was trying to find answers. How can I help myself? My mother also got cancer when I was 16. She was in her 50s. And I think maybe that also brought it more home. Like, how did this happen? How could I help her? How could I help myself? Because I was sensitive, I didn't realize I was actually absorbing her stress, my father's stress. Being an empath, I'm sensitive to energies or how people feel, and I can, pick up the vibe in the room and what's happening. So I think that was also part of that. So I think meditation was my biggest thing. I was trying to look up how do you meditate, but my mind at that time was just so scrambled that, calming the mind, having no thoughts was not something that worked for me until I got married, moved to Tasmania, and I looked online. You can join these adult ed classes, and there was this weird thing called breath work, and I thought, oh yeah, I want to try that. I don't know what that is, and it was sounding through the body, sounding through chakras, and I thought, oh, this is amazing, and I could really just feel how my mind just settled. So for me, starting off with just having a clear mind didn't work, but sound, the breath, combining that and toning helped to let go of, things that I couldn't actually understand, logically work out. So for that, I think was a really big pathway. And from then on, I thought, I really want to learn how to sing. I'm not a good singer. I was really bad. I was really bad at attitude, but there I saw a program that said you could always be trained. And I found this amazing holistic teacher, and that was my way through. That was toning, singing, bringing more joy into my life was a really big way of opening up another one of my gifts that I didn't realize as a sound healer, that I can sing through the body, through people. And I tone with the medicine bowl, with the singing bowl, and people can feel the vibrations. They don't know what's happening, but they feel happier and lighter at the end of the session. Because I think we're all made of molecules. You know, I've got a biomedical science degree, and basically the atoms are all vibrating within us. The sound has a frequency that matches something that we're holding in the body, that especially if there's disease or trauma or disharmony, it helps just to restore that balance. And I know there's lots of research now with different hertz frequencies and harmonizing the health of the body, and at least we have now science that can prove that these things work.
Yes, exactly. So you actually did spend a decade working in biomedical science, cytology labs. What did studying cells and disease teach you about your body? Was it things that you then knew and it confirmed, like what you've just been sharing, or was it so much more?
I had a great biology teacher, and at that point, I decided I really want to be a naturopath, but couldn't afford it. My dad wanted me to follow a more traditional path. So biomedical science was probably the closest thing to that, understanding the body and looking at cells, looking at diseases, infections, so many cancers, cytology, specifically pap smears, the women and their different gynecological issues. And then going out to do fine needles in the hospitals where under mammogram or under CAT scans, the doctors would put in the needles and aspirate the cells. I would look at the tissue and let them know whether they had, the right area, whether they got the tumour or not. And I think sitting there for all these years under the microscope thinking, I want to be able to help people before they get to this point.
Yeah.
And the other women sitting beside me all had a dream. They all wanted to do other things. But I thought, I can't be like this. I can't sit here for another 10 years like them, wishing and hoping. I thought, no, I've got to try something else. My mind knew that, but my body was saying, you've got to go, you've got to go. But I didn't listen. We've got these amazing new microscopes and they weren't set up ergonomically. And I got RSI, repetitive strain injury. Even though I tried different treatments, it didn't heal because I was not meant to stay in that job. I was meant to follow my path of retraining and studying naturopathy. And even though it was hard with my arms still really weak and agitated, I knew that was my calling. And I think I had a deeper incentive as a mature age student at 32 to learn and understand the body and how nutrients, how herbs could actually restore people's health more so than just drugs. And I'm totally an advocate for doing both, complementary medicine. But for me, that was the missing element that I wished I had the first time around at uni, that use this nutrient, this can repair that imbalance. So that felt really, I was really passionate about that and really inspired. Even though then I had given birth to my first son, I would be reading notes while I was breastfeeding and late at night. But I just thought, no, this is what I have to do. This lights me up.
And that's the path you want to follow. What a crazy situation that you're in a medical lab looking at science and how to get people well, and you then at the same time get a repetitive strain injury where your body must have just been screaming at you going, I'm not well. It's certainly a wake-up call, and that you then obviously turned into a positive and it's hard to walk away from something that you've then gone and invested so much time. But looking back, it must have helped prepare you for the healer that you became.
Definitely. I know now if I don't listen to my body when it's slightly twinging, I know something big is going to come, because it's like there is a driver within me saying you have to change. You're at crossroads. So I think that's the big thing if I'm not listening. And I think that's where it comes back to connecting to that breath, paying attention to, does this light me up? Does this make me feel good? Or do I feel like I'm obligated or I'm resentful of it? And that's where the anxiety or the anger or the inflammation can manifest physically in the body. So that's why I work a lot of on the emotional level when I help people, because there's always the original issue is emotional that then manifests into a physical, condition.
Wow. Now, I read somewhere that your highly sensitive son became your greatest teacher, and definitely as a mum of five, our kids teach us so much. But it sounded like you were already on this path before, which was probably a blessing. So what did he teach you, and what was that like for you in those early years as a mum?
Having RSI, I tried everything, acupuncture, different meditations, a pain psychologist. But then a friend did Reiki on me, and I thought, what is that? I could totally feel. I want to learn how to do that. So I'd already studied Reiki. I'd learned pranic healing. So that was already part of, I suppose, the rebuilding of me. And then when my son was born, he just cried. He just cried all the time. He was so unsettled. These sleep techniques where you're meant to let them cry out. He would not stop. It was 8 hours at night. He would not come down if I let him. And so that was so heartbreaking. That's where I felt like I was in the dark night of the soul, the grief and the loss. I wanted this baby so much, and it was another huge initiation into motherhood. Again, I tried different herbs, lots of remedies, lots of flower essences, thinking, what was I carrying that he is so unsettled that his skin started to break out? Because I mentioned before I was allergic or sensitive to dairy. I didn't realize. Then he was also reacting to my breast milk. So his eczema was really severe. But I think that's where my biomedical science degree came in, making things a bit more systematic. Okay, I've tried to work on this part. Where is it coming from? How can I bring more healing in to settle him? So when I did do healing, I could feel he was just more, calm, happy. His skin started to repair. There was a lot of trauma in his digestive system. So, following that lineage, is it coming in from my father's side or my mother's side? So I think that was my breakthrough, finding out, oh, I do have a system. And then it was actually before I started practicing as a herbalist and a naturopath that I started seeing people for healing, and they were all coming in for sensitivities. Their children had eczema or behavioral issues. And so it wasn't just treating the child, I was treating the mother and what was being carried through the family and their sensitivities. Because these little people, these little children were all sensitive empaths. They're all little healers that obviously we need for the world we have today. My son's now 26. Skin looks amazing. He's very strong and resilient. So I think, yes, there is a positive outcome. But I think these new children at that age coming through were helping to break probably the dynamic of the past, and because it's helping us to bring a cleaner environment. I have no chemicals in the house. He was sensitive to, I think we bought a new lounge and he ended up in hospital with severe asthma and nearly died because of the fire retardants that were sprayed on the lounge. But the doctors wouldn't believe us, so that was his level. He's like a little canary. He's super sensitive to whatever chemical. And I know there are so many children like that out there too.
Yeah. So it sounds like this journey has shown you when conventional and even naturopathic approaches, by the sound of it, aren't enough. That's made you just keep pushing deeper and deeper and working out this whole holistic sort of view on health, I suppose.
Yes.
And appreciating that there's a breadth and there's also obviously a strong lineage and other factors that are deeply intertwined that need to be explored. So did working with his sensitivities shape your philosophy of healing now? Was it mainly him, or was it that you started tapping into that and then you actually saw those same patterns and experiences happening then with those other people that you were helping?
I think at each stage of his development, I was progressing and getting deeper into what would actually help him, because his sensitivity is a little Scorpio like me. We're water signs. We just become quite fluid. I think learning about boundaries, shielding, walking into certain shops, he would start crying or he'd get really agitated. So I think it was about understanding what's happening in the energy field, not just in the physical body, that might have been aggravating his health and his skin, particularly. I think with that, I was then able to apply it to my clients. But as he grew older, then different factors came in. So I think that's where I was able to then develop more of my skills and what I was meant to bring through as a healer. So he's giving me the challenge and I'm trying to work through that. But in doing that, it's opening me up for more of my gifts that were ready to come online at the different times. And then also sharing that with my clients that were also ready for their development. So I think it was two-pronged. He's got the condition, I'm trying to heal him, and then I get to share that and help and apply that and then see the results in other people. And that's so rewarding. That feels amazing when I can do that.
Oh, it's your happy place. I can feel it.
Yes.
So you integrate shamanic principles and ancestral healing and vibrational medicine and naturopathy and probably so much more. How do these approaches work together in practice? How do you have a new client come in to see you and how do you integrate them? Or do you actually use different practices with different people?
Yeah, I think it depends where they're coming from. Usually, if they come in with a physical issue, I will still look at their lab results, their pathology results, and see, what's happening with their bloods and their iron and cholesterol. That's all part of it. That's all important. And then I will still treat the physical body with herbs and supplements and different nutrients. And then that's just at one level to support the physical, and then I go deeper into the emotional level and whether I use flower essences or homeopathy or just deeper breath work practices to get them to release what they're still holding from childhood. So often our traumas are still held from that time, but I don't need to go deep into talking deeply about it. It's more about really calling back the soul that's trapped at that timeline, because we have just different times that the body is frozen in that fight-flight response, and it's about really settling the nervous system to calm down from that experience so that it can become more integrated into the present version of themselves. So I think that intertwining, it is multifactorial that I apply. So that way I think I'm getting a bigger result, a deeper result. Yeah, for those people that are aligned to working with me.
Yeah, I think I've seen you call it cellular and soul blueprint, like describe it as that. And it is like that. It's like getting that whole alignment. So how do you help people who see sensitivity as a weakness? Often it's like, oh, they're just sensitive. It's like a negative. But what you're sharing is it's actually just about finding information. How can I, be aware of what it is? How can I find the right path to overcome or live with that sensitivity in a positive way? How do you help people do that?
I think the sensitivity can be something that, I've got to take something away from people if they're feeling that it's too much, it's an overload, but it's actually a refinement of, rather than like me not knowing that I was sensitive to dairy, my son was sensitive to dairy, it can be like, that's my sensitivity to that. But it actually, if I actually follow a more holistic or even though it's removal of that, I'm actually finding other foods that agree with me better, reduces the inflammation in my body. I feel lighter, I feel happier. So I think on a physical level, it's that finding the right path that gets you back onto what you should be doing. So in the peeling away of certain things, you're actually finding what you're actually meant to be doing. So it's not a negative, it's actually a superpower, and it helps you then choose what lights me up, what lifts me, who do I need to hang out with. It's a barometer, so that you're staying away from certain people or conditions or situations and guiding you into actually having a life that's more fulfilling and supportive of you, rather than feeling like you have to do it or obligation, duty. It makes your life so much easier and freer when you're listening to that sensitivity, because it is your guidepost. towards what you're meant to be doing and your greatest fulfillment.
Mm. Now, you journeyed back to Chile and Peru in 2007, I believe, and it was a really pivotal moment for you. What happened on that trip?
It was amazing. In my cousin's house, they honor the ancestors. There's a whole wall of pictures and photographs of the people that have passed, and they talk to them as if they're still alive. And so when I came to stay there that night, I got woken up with, it was my psychic awakening. All my ancestors are in my room talking to me, some in Italian, some in Chilean. I thought, what is this? What is going on? Because the spirits are alive in that house. All of the culture, all through South America, they do that.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. So I asked for a translation so I could understand what they were saying. And then it was definitely reclaiming of my roots, where my parents lived, what my life would have been like if I'd stayed there. And obviously then lots of police walking around with guns, rifles that I wasn't used to. We are so lucky in Australia, even though things seem a bit difficult. I think it's definitely tougher over there. I really chose to find the shamans, the Chilean shamans, the Mapuche. They're the indigenous people of Chile. A beautiful woman, just being in her presence and talking to her about how she connected to the land and the mountains and the trees and the herbs she used. And then in Peru, also having a shamanic cleansing. I didn't do ayahuasca at that time. I chose just because of my sensitivity, I knew that would be too much for me. But this shaman just cleansed me and did an offering, burnt it in the soil, and the smoke that was coming through had the shape of the jaguar and the eagle and the snake. It was just profound. I didn't need to do any other herbs to see it and witness it. It was amazing. And then traveling through Bolivia, the same, connecting to the shamans. It was tapping into my ancestral healing. They could see the angels that work with me, the healing guides. For me, it was just an acknowledgement of how far I'd come and what I'd done, the inner work that I had done and what I had activated, and having elders that could see that and witness that in me was really, just such a beautiful, profound healing, even in that, because often we don't get people to acknowledge that. Having come from difficulties with my father and then the medical system, and even feeling a little bit isolated doing the work that I was doing because it wasn't mainstream, going back to that culture and being shown, this is the way, this is what you're doing the right thing, keep going. So I think that was very deeply healing and just a reclaiming of what I disconnected from.
What an amazing time. And it's interesting, isn't it, when you then also in a culture that's all very accepting of this. So here you are reclaiming your ancestral heritage, your lineage, all of, and everyone's like, of course you can see spirits and all of this is real and alive there. And then suddenly you're in Australia though. You must have faced a lot of judgment on your new approach, your intuitive approach, this whole practice of yours. How did that affect you at the time when you had this incredible, profound experience and then you come back to real life here?
It was a shock, to be honest. It was, I needed time to integrate. And I think that's what I usually tell my clients after they've gone on a retreat. It takes time to bring all of that back in. Probably took me 6 months to land back. But I felt more strongly with what I was doing. And I think that listening to that in my heart, despite hearing the gossip of, she's weird, look what she's doing, I had to really block that. It did affect me. I was upset, but I had to choose to focus on the work that I'm doing, the results that I was getting, and listen to my heart that this is my way. And I had to just stop being pulled into other people's, just their opinions. I think that was a big thing about my confidence, and not bowing down to that, because I knew that this was the way, and I I couldn't do anything else, basically.
Yeah.
So I had to really blinker it. I'm not going to hear this anymore. It doesn't help me. All I can do is work on the people and see the results, and that they kept coming back. And then the referrals built, and my, calendar was full. So I knew that was my feedback, that I'm on track. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a real sign of that maturity of leadership, is just being all in and owning your truth, right? So because while you are looking back and worrying and defending and, whatever, then you can't be fully, known and exploring where you should be. And I think that's another huge phase that is really exciting when you come out the other side. So integrity in healing must mean everything to you, as an empath working in this space, to be really honest and true to those you serve. Do you feel that? Does that word integrity leap out at you, or would there be another word that you would say?
Oh, yes. I'm getting goosebumps when you're saying that word. Yeah, because I suppose it's my devotion to my practice, to being aligned, to connecting. Because if I didn't do that, then I'd be really messed up. I'd feel anxiety. I'd be, exhausted, which is how I used to feel all the time. Yeah. And to feel this, it's part of my discipline. And so I think being in integrity with my practice, then I can share that with others and help them. There's a whole range of people out there doing different things, but I know that I have to follow my path this way. And in doing that, then I feel it's more authentic. And I think that's where people can trust me, because I've walked it. I know how hard it is. So I can be a leader, a representative in this field, because I am walking that talk, and I don't think you can't not do it. I think that's where you're out of integrity, if you're not doing it regularly and following it. And it's not to be perfect, because I do.
None of us are.
Yeah. That's also the integrity as well. I've got to say, my bad days or rough days, because otherwise you can't be put on a pedestal, because everyone's going to crash from that position.
Exactly.
So authenticity is the shadow and the light, and sharing both is important for me. And I that's what I share as well, so that people can then resonate with what I'm going through, what they're going through. They understand that I get them, and it does get better, so much better.
So looking back now on your incredible career, really, what do you feel most proud of?
I've written 2 books. I was not very good at English. I wasn't a writer. That I think stumbling through that acceptance, I did a lot. I was always journaled though, and I think that my first book about my son, I wrote it not for me but to help my clients. Took me 7 years to write, because I was still upset. I was still in the suffering of it. So that was in 2013, to actually come out as an author, published author, and share that with others. And then 10 years later, in 2023, I published my second book, The Mystic Woman's Compass, which was still my stories, what I went through, but more the how-to, different practices, different rituals, different meditation things. So lots of journal questions, I think, and that became an international bestseller. So that is, I'm just so proud of it. Thank you. Yeah, and sharing it for others, so that they have a guidepost where I didn't have that.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, congratulations. That is a huge feat. And yes, another massive triumph for you. And don't worry, many books take 7 to 10 years.
That's right.
But once you've done the first one, it gets easier.
Yeah, the second one was 2 years. So I knew how to do it.
One, 6 months.
That's right.
Mariangela, what message would you like to leave with listeners today who feel a little bit different, feel intuitive, feel things are just a bit too much, they don't fit in, they're more sensitive? What's your closing message for them today?
I'd love for them to know that if they put their hand on the heart, they know, their soul already knows where they need to go, that even though it feels scary, that the things that pop into their mind, they need to do it. They need to give it a go, because that's the growth edge, the discomfort. They need to break through that. And as they do that, then they're going to land in the place they've always longed for. So do it, try it. Even if it feels scary, it's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. You are a true legend in your field, and it's been great hearing just a snippet of your journey. And for those of you listening in, thank you so much for joining us again for Let's Talk Natural Medicine. And also, if you haven't joined Friends of Natural Medicine, it's our community. So it's a community for consumers, people who are interested in natural medicine. You can click on the QR code if you're watching this video, or if you aren't, you can go to atms.com.au and click on Friends. It's free to join. You'll then get a little email every couple of weeks. It'll have recipes from a celebrity chef. It'll have some blogs from our accredited practitioners. It'll have links to this podcast and a lot more. So come and join our community and get in touch with more learnings about natural medicine. That's what we do here. And once again, thank you for our guest today. And I look forward to interviewing another legend next week with you. Thanks so much for joining us. This episode is sponsored by BioGland MedLab. Backache, mild joint stiffness, muscle soreness, and inflammation impacting how you move and feel each day. Try BioGland MedLab Clinical Pain Relief, a triple action formula with clinically researched term extra turmeric and Apris Flex Boswellia to help relieve mild joint pain and reduce inflammation, with benefits reported from as little as 5 days. Get back to doing the things you love. Learn more at bioglandmedlab.com.au. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.